My guest today is John Dennis. You may have seen him around town. You also may have seen him on the ballot box because John has run for office and he is anything but liberal. But we're going to be talking today about how you can make it here as a conservative, as a Republican, and really what it means to this city and to the people who do want to thrive and start a business despite their political differences. So on that note, hey, really good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this is John Dennis, and obviously, as I say in the introduction, you're Republican. What in the world? How's this work in San Francisco?
You know, when San Francisco was at its best, it was Republican. What can I say? We're trying to bring back the good old days.
We know it's really interesting. I mean, I'm happy. I like anybody. This is however it works, it works. But the thing is that you have a very strong. You've got a lot of roots here, John. So first of all, let's talk about who you are and what you are. So first, you are associated with the Republican Party. How?
I am the chairman of the San Francisco Republican Party.
Right, and then you've got another association with the Republican Party, which is
So there's Republicans, like Democrats, have different clubs. I'm the vice chairman of what's called the Republican Liberty Caucus, which is a national organization, has about 60,000 members nationwide. And we represent what's known as sort of the libertarian or the liberty-driven wing of the Republican Party.
Okay. Now, how does this factor into living here, working here? We have a very liberal government. It just is. I mean, would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now, that's fine, all well and good, but in your opinion, has it made it more difficult to live here and work here? Just your opinion. I mean, this is what you do best. So what's your perspective?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I moved here about 30 years ago, and the town has definitely changed. And I think as it's become more liberal, more progressive, really.
Yeah.
It's become managed more poorly, I'm sorry to say. So, like, I think there used to be a more, I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. My dad was a longshoreman.
Jersey here too.
There you go.
Yeah.
And my mom was a Democratic committee woman, actually. And Jersey City is very Democratic.
Yeah,
but it's very blue-collar Democrat. And San Francisco used to have that element as well. So I have my own theory about this, where as the city got more expensive, that blue-collar Democrat type, that union type, that just wanted to negotiate together and work, those folks got priced out of San Francisco, and what replaced them were sort of college-educated, super liberal guys who came out of sort of these indoctrination universities who wanted to experiment on the on San Francisco. That's where we're at right now, and it's a shame because they keep throwing money at problems, and that money that they throw at problems is subsidizing those problems, and whatever you subsidize, you tend to get more of.
Well, let's talk about what those problems are.
Sure.
So the number one complaint or issue among San Franciscans is
too many Republicans?
That's
no,
that's what it maybe. But the other one then is what we see on our streets and about a lot of issues, where it's a lot of drug addiction, mental health issues, people in tents.
What people typically refer to as homelessness.
Well, and I kind of hate to say that sometimes.
Me too. I agree with you, yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed is that when we refer to people as homeless, well, first of all, I don't know if they're homeless or not. I think it's kind of a presumptuous statement when you see somebody on the street and who looks kind of bedraggled. Look, I don't know if they're living in an SRO. I don't know if they just got here and are going away. We don't know. So I don't like to make those presumptions. But what I do know is that life has become pretty darn difficult for a lot of people here, and a lot of people are in really not so good states, to put it mildly.
So why are so many people here? Why are so many people living this lifestyle on the streets here? By the way, I think that the majority of them, and there are different studies that point this out, are in some phase of drug addiction.
Yes.
And then what happens is they, as they use drugs, their mental problems get exacerbated and they be sort of amplified, and so you get this combination, and we sort of have to peel back what the problem is by addressing the drug addiction problem. But why is it that this problem is a nationwide issue? Why are so many of them congregating here in San Francisco?
Why are people drawn here?
Yeah.
Or sent here? Did you happen to see the news today that there was a news piece that SFO is sending people on Samtrans with a one-way ticket all the way back to San Francisco, wherever it is that they're coming from, they go and they get dropped off at the Embarcadero. And these are people who are confirmed homeless people. They have no place else to go.
Right.
And they get dumped at the Embarcadero.
Yeah.
Many, I mean, this is happening a lot more than people before had admitted. So why?
But why leave? If you're homeless, if this is your condition, where you're at, it's a sad condition, and no one wants anyone to live this way, where else would you rather be?
Yeah.
You know, the weather's not bad. If you are in some phase of drug addiction, we give you free needles. There's tons of food everywhere. And no one is going to roust you. No one's going to bother you. So what we said is, you know, if you're homeless, we shouted it through a megaphone. Come to San Francisco. You're welcome here. Right. Now, by the way, that wasn't always the case. You know, back in the 90s, under other mayors, they were a little firmer with the homeless and said, listen, this lifestyle is not acceptable in San Francisco. And as a result, people didn't come here as frequently. And so, you know, this problem is just not going to get better under the new regime, under the new Chesa Boudin regime. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. We talked about what happened down at the Safeway in the Marina a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, in fact, why don't you cover that a little bit?
I hate to cover it, but what happened was some gentleman, presumably homeless, bedraggled, you know, dressed in a way that you would assume that he doesn't have a place to live, went into the Safeway, went to the toilet paper aisle, dropped his pants, defecated, and cleaned himself opened up a nice package of toilet paper, cleaned himself, and walked out.
This is kind of no wonder that made national news. I mean, it made international news.
Well, I put out a tweet that went out on national news. Yeah. And I just think the more we encourage more people with these kinds of troubles to come to San Francisco, the more this sort of abhorrent behavior we're going to see. And I don't know if you're hearing it, but now I'm hearing where people were running into homeless people who are more aggressive now. I'm hearing more and more of those stories.
That has a lot to do with drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, given all that,
yeah.
How do we elevate? And not just elevate people who are here trying to start businesses, but like how can we nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to live that way, right? Whether among or in. How do we get better? In your opinion, as a political strategist, what should we do? And
by the way, I'm like you. I love living here. I love this place. I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about all the other amazing things about San Francisco. But we do have this issue, and it's a hurdle. We have to overcome it. I think it requires some of these effete liberal types in City Hall to get a spine and say, listen, it is not helping people by letting them languish on the streets. We have to get them off the streets. The tool is we have to, as we heard in a recent email from the mayor apparently has gotten religion to what I'm talking about, which is she said we've got to bring them in. Of course, that's a euphemism for arresting them. Now, there's a recent case that in Idaho that says that you can't arrest someone for not having a place to sleep, but you can arrest them for defecating on the sidewalks. Right. You really should arrest them for doing drugs on the sidewalks, out in the open. Those are illegal activities, and if we discourage the illegal activities on the street, we get a touch with them. And once we get that touch, then we can find out where they need to be in the system. And I've made a proposal where after 2 arrests with these types of folks, that or any type of folks, I suppose, for that matter, that they end up going in one direction, or they either give them a choice of going to jail or going to rehab, or if they really need psychiatric help, we get them in that direction. And 2 things will happen: one, that we'll get those people off the streets into the places where they really should be, and 2, we'll send a message that San Francisco doesn't want people to live this lifestyle anymore.
Yeah, it's not good for anybody.
No. Right.
And so the current administration, what's your opinion? Do you think that they're on the right track? Are we starting to see changes?
You mean the Breed administration? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what's interesting was that email in January. I thought that was really illuminating, and I thought it was a step in the right direction. But the tepid steps are not going to be. You're going to have to be a little more forthright about getting these things done, because if not, folks are not going to go anywhere. But here's the good news: if they get religion on this issue, and it's not.
What do you mean by that?
I don't mean it in the sense where I don't want them to be cruel. It's not an act of cruelty. It's an act of kindness to get people the help that they need. If they get firm and actually make that sturdy step and say, we are going to get people where they need to be, I think it sends a message. I think our homeless population will drop almost in half overnight, or in a relatively short time, because, again, we're going to discourage people from being here, living that lifestyle.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely, whatever it is that we've been doing, it's been wrong. So that we know for sure.
So let me just say this, by the way, if you don't mind. To the mayor, to the folks in City Hall, a little humility maybe. What you've been doing has not worked. Why don't you come talk to the Republicans? We're happy to help. We live here too. We're happy to be your allies in this fight, to get people to where they need to be. Allow us to come in and chat with you about it. We'll take some of the heat for the tough stuff, but maybe a little humility and see if we can't pitch in here.
No, it's funny. I realize as we're talking that the perception is going to be, my gosh, you know, is Erica this arch conservative and what's going on? And I'm politically agnostic. I don't care. Whatever works.
Right.
I'm a whatever worksian. And if it's not working,
Yeah.
freaking admit it.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
not working.
We're not working.
So,
a little
and
humility.
if it does work, come on, let's embrace it. Let's go do something different. Let's try a new way.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just had to say that. Now, you are a businessman.
Sure.
And a long-standing businessman here. So can you tell me what is it like doing business here in San Francisco? And any kind of words of wisdom or words of warning for somebody who does want to open up a business here?
It's not the friendliest environment, obviously, to start a business. And not
The
only that, but like it
problem.
depends on the type of business you're going to be in. Like I've never been in the retail business, although I'm very sympathetic to folks who are in those businesses. People who have shops or ground floor spaces because, you know, it's a lot easier being Salesforce in San Francisco than it is being some furniture store, you know, that's just trying to make it, or a restaurant where they have to come in the morning and clean up what's been left for them from the night before. That's really tricky. What's also tricky is that the city isn't very sympathetic with all sorts of different little taxes that make it tougher to be in business here. And you know, the environment's gotten hard. I mean, you know, retail is being challenged from online sales. And what are we doing? We're increasing the minimum wage on the state level, and we're increasing taxes. We're having vacancy taxes. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could do is we could repeal some of those taxes and just make it so that this becomes the friendliest place to have a retail business in California, not the hardest place.
Okay, now you've got a kind of a tough job coming up. You
Sure.
are challenging a certain someone.
Yes.
Why don't you, we only have a couple of minutes left. This kind of flew by here. Who, what, where, why? What's going on?
Okay, so I'm running against Nancy Pelosi. I'm running for Congress here in San Francisco, and it's important. I mean, so with this top two system, only the top two vote getters go through to the general election. So Nancy Pelosi will presumably get the most votes, and then the few of us are, you know, jostling for the second place. And the city has a choice that it needs to make. Are we going to move farther to the left? And embrace that, and you have to ask yourself, how has that worked out for us so far? Or are we going to say that we need to actually have a little more moderate voice? We need a little balance in San Francisco. One-party rule has absolutely failed us.
Yes.
And so we need
Because
to
there's no checks and balances.
There's no counterpoint.
Then everyone just says, yeah, it's fine, it's fine, fine. Move it along.
There's
just
no
keep
counterpoint.
moving in that same direction.
So I'm running for Congress here. I'm representing this point of view, a different point of view than what Nancy Pelosi offers. And you know, I think on social issues and issues of civil liberties and war and those sorts of things, I think people find me very palatable if you're on the left side of the aisle. But I would urge people who are going to vote in this election, even if they're predisposed to supporting Nancy Pelosi, to hold that vote back. She's going to make it into the top two, but vote for me in the primary, and then Nancy Pelosi in the general election, just so that we send a message to the San Francisco progressives and the Democrats that we're moving in the wrong direction.
Okay, now how can people get in touch with you?
JohnDennis.com.
Pretty easy.
Super simple. I'd give my phone number, but God knows what kind of phone calls I'll get.
Yeah, I get them all. Thank you so much for joining me, and I think it's fascinating. You know, you're in the minority, but I don't know just how much the minority you are these days. I think there's a lot of secrets, or what do you think? Do you think
I think, you know, I ran for supervisor last year. I put this message out there about getting tougher with the homeless, and I think it gave cover to London Breed to some extent to take a harder line on things. That's part of what we do with the Republican Party when we're in a minority party like this, and I think there were more people sympathetic to our message than one might imagine.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
No, pleasure's mine.
Yeah, it was
Love
really
to do it.
great.